Welcome back to the DC Rap interview series. I'm Pat Pavletti with WisPolitics.com. Joining me this week is Rep. Tom Tiffany from Wisconsin's 7th Congressional District. Congressman, how are you?
I'm good, Pat. It's good to join you today.
So, to start, you were sworn in not quite a month ago. So, how are you finding life in the nation's capital so far?
Yeah, so I just was out there for 2 weeks. This election was May 12th, and then the following week, May 19th, was sworn in. You may have seen on some of the social media, we made it a road trip for the family. We all piled into a conversion van and drove out to Washington and spent about 3-4 days out there. It was a great time to take our whole family out there. Chris, my wife and I, and our 3 daughters. We really had a great trip out to Washington, D.C. Probably the thing that's most noticeable about Washington, D.C. right now is you can drive into the nation's capital without any traffic jams because everybody's working remotely. So that was pretty interesting. But, really a great honor. A lot of people apologize. Normally we do this with more pomp and circumstance and things like that. But I guess I really don't know the difference. But still, great honor to be in the nation's capital, to be sworn in, to represent over 700,000 people here in the 7th Congressional District. And we had the opportunity to go to the White House that night, both my family as well as Representative Garcia from California, who was also elected on May 12th in a special. So just a great honor to be able to serve and just be able to go through that process that very few people get the opportunity to do.
So to shift gears just slightly here, I wanted to ask you about the nuts and bolts of legislating, so to speak. So coming to Congress, you're entering the minority for what I believe is the first time in your political career. And you also are arriving roughly 5 months before an election, which is a time where the gears of lawmaking generally tend to grind to a halt. So with that in mind, do you have any legislative priorities over the next 5 months that you think can be addressed before the election?
So my first priority, and by the way, Pat, for our viewers, you can see the 7th Congressional right behind me here. And that map's been the focus here the last number of months. My focus, first of all, was to get a good staff in my offices put together, both in district as well as out in Washington, D.C. And some people may recognize the name Jason Bucknecht, who worked in the Capitol when I came into the legislature in 2011. He was in Speaker Fitzgerald, Jeff Fitzgerald's office. And so Jason has been out in Washington for about 5 years and had the opportunity to snap him up to run my office. And so we were able to quickly be able to put together our office staff out in Washington, D.C., as well as here in the district. I mean, we've got all of our hires in place. We have our offices up and running. That was the first thing that I wanted to do, because more than anything, the most important thing we do is constituent service, whether it's veterans, issues, and of course with the federal programs that are out there at this point, the Paycheck Protection Act, of course with a lot of agriculture up here, the CFAP program, the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program, very important for agricultural producers. I wanted to make sure that that constituent service is going to get done, and so we tried to ramp up getting our office put together. First thing, that's the first and foremost thing.
So I also saw that on social media, at least, you were in my own home state of Arizona for a visit to the border. How did that come about, and what did you make of the experience?
Yeah, really interesting. It's only the second time I've been to Arizona. Went to Brewers spring training about 15, 20 years ago with some friends. And but Representative Andy Biggs put together a trip out there, and there were a group of us congressional representatives that went there. I thought it was a great opportunity. The border and border security has been a really big issue in our country for a long time, really, and there really hasn't been any resolution to it. So I wanted to see what was happening there firsthand, because I certainly thought about it during the campaign, but having a chance to see it firsthand, that was really terrific to see the wall being built. We went south of Sierra Vista and had a chance to see the wall being built there, had a chance to talk to the Border Patrol, sheriff's departments, and others that are in law enforcement, the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, and really got a good perspective that you don't get being up here, but was also able to connect some of the dots that I've been hearing from local sheriffs about just the scourge of drugs that are up here, especially methamphetamine and fentanyl. And they're telling the story firsthand down there, how that stuff is coming here to the upper Midwest, and that's the gateway, is the southern border.
So I always close out this little feature by giving my guests a little bit of time to talk about anything that we perhaps didn't get to in our short time together. So anything you're working on you want to highlight?
Yeah, Pat, you asked earlier about, what are you working on in the next 6 months? We're heading into an election. Not a lot gets done in Congress as we head into especially a presidential election. And we're really focused on being in the minority. By the way, first time that I've been in the minority since in my elected experience. And so it is different. But I think there's things that we can do, including being in the minority. And one of the things I really focused on in the legislature, and I will do in Washington, D.C., is regulatory overreach. We see it in a lot of ways. Yesterday, I was just at a presentation that the EPA did over in Sheboygan, where they really made some common sense changes there to be able to help individuals and businesses. The mayor of Sheboygan was there, and other locally elected officials, to really get rid of unnecessary rules and regulations. That's something I'm going to be really focused on, whether it's our national forests, rail concerns we have up here, especially with the Canadian National. Some of the stuff on the regulatory side, I'm really going to be focused on that, and we are looking into those things immediately to be able to take those shackles off. Because the regulatory burden is actually, I believe, more costly than taxes in our country and in our state. And we got to find ways to take those shackles off from people if they're going to be productive, and if we're going to have entrepreneurs starting businesses here in Wisconsin and the United States.
That was Congressman Tom Tiffany. Thank you so much for joining me this week.
It's great to be here, Pat, and give a call anytime.
Will do. And for more DC-based content, you can check out westpolitics.com and the DC Wrap product. See you guys all next week.